Hi guys! I didn't think I was going to do this video because I didn't film at the beginning of the year, and I usually film every single book I read in 2020, and I didn't do it, and then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and do it because I want to keep it, and yeah, look back on it because I loved the one I did last year. So let's just get started because this is going to take a second because there was 117 books I read in 2020, but I'm just going to go through and just tell you the title of the book, the author, what I rated it, and maybe where it's at, like if it's chick lit, YA, something like that. So let's get started. The first book is My Not So Perfect Life by Sophie Kinsella. This is adult fiction, or chick lit as they say, and I gave this one 4 stars. The next one is Love Story by Layne. This is an adult romance, and I gave it 2 stars. The next one is Blitzed by Alexa Martin, and I gave this one 3 stars, and this is an adult romance. The next one is Sophie Kinsella's The Wedding Night, and I gave this one 2 stars, and it is an adult romance. Next one is A Bend in the Stars by Rachel Brunham, and I gave this one 5 stars, and this is just adult fiction. This one is Irresistibly Yours by Layne. This is an adult romance, and I gave it 2 stars. The next one is Sherwood by Meagan. This is a fantasy, and I gave it 4 stars. Next one is Let It Snow by John Green, Maureen Johnson, and Myracle, and I gave this one 3 stars. This one is After the Kiss by Layne, and I gave this one 3 stars, and it's an adult romance. Next one is Save the Date by Mary Kay Andrews. I gave this one 3 stars, and it is in a women's literature. Wait, yeah. Next one is Hot Acid by Layne. I gave this one 3 stars, and it is an adult romance. This one is Wallbanger by Clayton, and this one I gave 3 stars, and it is a steamy romance. It's Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore, and I gave this one 4 stars, and this is a historical romance. This one is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I gave this one 4 stars, and this is historical mythological fiction. This one is Remember Me by Sophie Kinsella, an adult romance. I gave 4 stars. Next one is Waiting for Tom Hanks by Kerry, Winfrey, and this is a YA romance, YA contemporary, and I gave this one 3 stars. The next is The Bromance Book Club by Lisa K. Adams. This is a chick lit, and I gave this one 4 stars. Next one is Love the One You're With by Layne, and I gave this one 3 stars. It's an adult romance. Next one is Tweet Cute by Emma Lord, and I gave this one 4 stars, and it is adult or YA contemporary. Okay, the next one is Just One Night by Layne. It's an adult romance. I gave 3 stars too. Next one is The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and it is a contemporary urban fantasy, I would say, and I gave this one about a 2.5 stars. This one is a Maybe Not, a novella by Colleen Hoover, and I gave this one 2 stars, and it is an adult novella romance. The next one is Hard Sell by Layne. This is an adult romance. I gave 3 stars too. Next one is Love Her or Loser by Tessa Bailey. It is an adult romance. I gave 4 stars too. Next one is The Trouble with Love by Layne. It's an adult romance. I gave 4 stars too. Next one is I Wish You Were Mine by Layne. An adult romance. I gave 3 stars too. Next one was Someone Like You by Layne. Adult romance. I gave 3 stars too. Next one was Something Borrowed by Emily Griffin. An adult, not chick lit, that I gave 3 stars too. The next one is Beautiful Disaster by Jamie McGuire, a new adult romance. I gave 4 stars too. Next one is We Met in December by Rosie Curtis. I gave it 4 stars. Women's fiction. The next one is Wild at Heart by K.A. Tucker. I gave this one 4 stars, and it is women's fiction. Next one is Passion on Park Avenue by Layne. I gave this one 4 stars, and it's women's fiction. This one is A Girl's Guide to the Outback by Jessica Kate, and I gave this one 4 stars, and it is Christian fiction. The next one is Crave by Tracy Wolff. This is a YA fantasy, and I gave this one 4 stars. Next one is Resistance by Jennifer A. Nielsen. I gave this one 5 stars. This is a historical children's fiction, or middle grade read historical fiction. This is Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. I gave this one 4 stars. This is a middle grade poetry read. I know there's a proper name for that, and I can't think of it right now, but yeah, middle grade poem read. Next one is Not the Girl You Marry by Andy J. Christopher, and I gave this one 3 stars, and it is women's fiction. So the next ones I'm just going to do really quick. The next one's A Truth and Beard by Penny Reed. It is adult romance, and I gave it 3 stars. Next is Grin and Bear It by Penny Reed, an adult romance. I gave 4 stars. Beard in Mind by Penny Reid, an adult romance, I gave 4 stars. Doctor Strange Beard by Penny Reid, an adult romance, I gave 3 stars. And Beard with Me, an adult romance by Penny Reid, I gave 3 stars. And Beard Science by Penny Reid, I gave 3 stars. 3 Hours in Paris by Color Black, I gave this one 5 stars, and it is historical fiction. Romeo and Juliet and Vampires by Claudia Gable, I gave this one 2 stars. It is YA retelling fiction. If I Had Your Face by Frances Shaw, I gave this one 3 stars, and this is a slice of life fictional piece. Would You Like to Meet by Rachel Winters. This is a YA romance. I gave 3. Oh, this is a YA contemporary. I gave 3 stars. The next one is Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina and Lauren. This is a adult romance. I gave 4 stars. The next one is 3 Times Lucky by Sheila Turnage. This is a middle grade read. I gave 5 stars. The next one is Sex, Lies, and Online Dating by Rachel Gibson. This is an adult romance. I gave 4 stars. Next up is The One and Only Ivan by Catherine Applegate. I gave this one 5 stars, and it's a children's read. Next up is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. This is a children's book. I gave 4 stars. Next up is Recipe for Persuasion by Sonali Dev. This is an adult romance. I gave 5 stars, a retelling of Persuasion. Next up is Love Lettering by Kate Claiborne. It's an adult romance. I gave 3 stars. Next one is The Book of Boy by Catherine Gilbert Murdoch. This is a children's read. I gave 4 stars, or middle grade. It's also middle grade. Next up is Hidden Figures by Margaret Lee Shetley. This is a non-fiction piece about... This is a non-fiction piece. I gave 3 stars. Next up is Reborn Yesterday by Tessa Bailey. This is an urban fantasy. I gave 4 stars. Next up is 4 Seconds to Lose by K.A. Tucker, and I gave this one 4 stars, and it is an adult contemporary and romance. Honey Don't List by Christina and Lauren. It's an adult romance. I gave 3 stars. Next up is A Life in Medieval Times by Kit Sweetly. Kit Sweetly by Jamie Paxton. I gave this one 4 stars, and it is a YA contemporary. Next up is That Boy by Jillian Dodd. This is an adult romance. I gave 2 stars. Next up is Daughter of the Pirate King by Trishan Levenseller. This is a YA fantasy. I gave 4 stars. And The Daughter of the Siren Queen by Trishan Levenseller. This is a YA fantasy. I gave 5 stars. Next up is Love on Lexington Avenue by Lauren Layne. This is an adult romance. I gave 4 stars. Next up is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hoggle. This is an adult romance. I gave 5 stars. The Giver and the Stars by Jojo Moyes. This is adult fiction. I gave 5 stars. Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is a YA mystery. I gave 3 stars. Next up is Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. This is an adult romance. I gave 2 stars. Next up is The Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is an adult romance. I gave 3 stars. Next up is The Upside of Falling by Alex Light, and this is a YA romance. I gave 4 stars. Next up is The Wise by Taryn Fisher. This is a suspense novel. I gave 4 stars. Next up is Don't You Forget About Me by Vahari McFarlane, and this is an adult romance. I gave 4 stars. Next up is Joe and Laurie by Margaret Stoll and Melissa De La Cruz. This is a retelling of a part of Little Women, and I gave this one 4 stars. Next up is If I Never Met You by Vahari McFarlane. This is an adult romance. I gave 5 stars. Next up is Neanderthal Seeks a Human by Penny Reid. This is an adult romance. I gave 3 stars. Next up is Fight or Flight by Samantha Young. It's an adult romance. I gave 4 stars. Next up is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This is an adult romance. I gave 4 stars. Next up is Undercover Bromance by Lisa K. Adams. This is an adult romance. I gave 3 stars. Next up is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and this is by Suzanne Collins. This is a 4th in a series, and I gave this one 3 stars. It's a dystopian. Next up is The Vanishing Stair by Maureen Johnson. This is the 2nd in a YA mystery series, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. Next up is Anna K by Jenny Lee. This is a retelling of Anna Karenina, and I gave this one 3 stars. Friends Without Benefits by Penny Reid. This is an adult romance. I gave 3 stars. Marriage on Madison Avenue by Lauren Layne. This is an adult romance. I gave 4 stars. Cold Day in the Sun by Sarah Vernon. This is a YA contemporary. I gave 3 stars. 11 Other Words by Christina and Lauren. It's an adult romance. I gave 3 stars. Hacked by Penny Reid. It's an adult romance. I gave 3 stars. Beauty and the Mustache by Penny Reid. This is an adult romance. I gave 5 stars. You Say It First by Katie Kotugo. This is a YA romance. I gave 2.5 stars. Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. This is a paranormal romance. I gave 3 stars. The CRAWDADS Scenes by Delia Owens. This is a mystery, or yeah, fiction mystery. I gave 4 stars. The Skies Above Us by Susan Sundin. This is a Christian fiction that I gave 3 stars to. The Homefront by Kristen Hanna. This is a women's fiction. I gave 4 stars to. Prejudice and Mistletoe by Melissa De La Cruz. This is a Pride and Prejudice retelling at Christmas. I gave 3 stars to. Real Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hilbert. An adult romance. I gave 5 stars to. One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. This is an adult romance. I gave 4.5 stars to. Majesty by Catherine McGee. What is this? A bit of a dystopian. I gave 4.5 stars to. A YA dystopian. I gave 4.5 stars to. Next Year in Havana by Chanel Clayton. I gave 5 stars to, and it's an adult romance, historical romance. Next up is Crave by Tracy Wolff. It is a YA fantasy. I gave 4 stars to. Next up is Awkward by Avery Flynn, adult romance. I gave a sports romance. I gave 4 stars to. And Loudmouth by Avery Flynn. I would say this is a low 3 stars, 2.5 stars, and it is an adult romance as well. Or adult sports romance as well. Next up is Kiss My Cupcake by Helena Hunting, an adult romance. I gave 4 stars to. Next up is Snapped by Alexa Martin, an adult romance. I gave 3 stars to. Next up is Spoiler Alert by Olivia Day, an adult romance. I gave 4.5 stars to. Next up is The Switch by Beth O'Leary, a women's fiction. I gave 4 stars to. Next up is Here's to Looking at You by Vihari McFarlane, and an adult romance. I gave 3 stars to. Next up is Tools and Engagement by Tessa Bailey, an adult romance. I gave 3 stars to. Next up is Well Played by Jen DeLuca, an adult romance. I gave 4.5 stars to. Next up is Evie Drake Starts Over by Linda Holmes, an adult or women's fiction. I gave 3 stars to. Next up is Big Summer by Jennifer Weiner, an adult mystery. I gave 3 stars to. No Offense by Meg Cabot, and this is a adult fiction, and I gave this one 3, or this is women's fiction, and I gave it 3 stars. Royal We by Heather Cox. This is a fan fiction piece, I believe, and I gave this one 3 stars. Happily Ever Ninja by Penny Reid. I gave this one 3.5, almost 4 stars, and this is an adult romance. Next is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. I gave this 3.5 stars, and it's an adult romance. Down to the last 2. So, Trouble Blood by Robert Galbraith. This I gave 4 stars to, and it's an adult mystery. And last but not least is Dating-ish by Penny Reid. I gave 3 stars to, and it's an adult romance. There you have it. There's all 117 books I read. If you heard romance, you probably heard it 1,000 times, I felt like, in this. I did read a lot of romance this year, but I kind of want to read more widespread this upcoming year. We'll see. We'll see what it brings. Romance is just so easy to read. It's like watching reality TV to me. But I will see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Bye!